Hi, everyone. Welcome to our IMI Global Producer webinar series. Today, I have a very special individual with me. I have Keoki Wood with me with Parker Ranch out of Hawaii. And he's just going to talk to us a little bit today about their operation, how things kind of work for them. And we'll go into the programs they work with and just have a good conversation. So thanks, Keoki, for finding some time to chat with me. If you'll just introduce yourself and give us more description on where your guys' ranch is located.
Sure. So my name is Keoki Wood. I'm the livestock operations manager here at Parker Ranch. I've been here for about 19 years now. We're located on the Big Island of Hawaii, and we're pretty much on the slopes of Mauna Kea and the Kohala Mountains, about 130,000 acres. We're running about 9,000 mother cows now, and we basically have two breeding seasons. Pretty much can grow grass year-round depending on when we get rain. So we're turning bulls out in June and July, and branding and weaning pretty much, it seems like, and shipping throughout the year. So it's a pretty simple grass operation. We don't have to chop ice, we don't have to put up hay, so we just kind of spend a lot of time moving cattle around. We're primarily an Angus-based herd with some Sim Angus to try to get a little more hybrid vigor in our cow herd, and we use some Charolais as a terminal cross. We have about 1,400 animals in our grass-fed program that we add every year, and so we finish them on grass with a little bit of a supplement in terms of protein or energy, but basically it's a forage diet. And those all are processed here locally, and they go into the Safeway stores throughout the state of Hawaii. So it's marketed under Paniolo Cattle Company, which is a joint venture we have with another entity. And so the other marketing option for our cattle is that we send them to the mainland, and they go into the country natural beef program there. So those are the primary outlets for our cattle. We have a small purebred herd of Angus and Sim Angus and Charolais as well. So we raise all our own seed stock, and that's pretty much it.
Wow, well that's a lot. That's so awesome for you to kind of tell this story. I think that when people think of Hawaii, they don't think of beef cattle, at least not with outside of the beef industry. Even right. To a certain extent, some people within the beef industry. So I think this is going to be a really neat conversation moving forward. So you've kind of referenced a few of the things that we're going to talk about, but you know, what are some of your biggest challenges raising cattle in your area, and how have you learned to overcome those and adapt?
Sure. You know, obviously, being so far from, you know, real strong markets, you know, there are no sale yards in Hawaii. So we've developed, you know, relationships over the many years, and we depend on those relationships and marketing agreements to help us market cattle. So that is a challenge. Logistically, you know, we don't have any hay that we have to buy, but we have a pretty steep freight rate. And that's why we try to market more cattle here locally, not only to, you know, leverage the resources we have with our grass, but also to, you know, increase a little more local beef production, which we, I think people really appreciated, especially during this COVID pandemic, when there was a lot of concern for people in Hawaii that the transportation of goods would be interrupted with everything that was going on. And even in the mainland, people saw interruptions. So, you know, I think everybody appreciated local production a lot more than they have in the past, and just being a little bit closer to that, and knowing that some product was going to make it for sure, I think gave everybody a little bit more ease in a time of real high anxiety.
Yeah, for sure. I can imagine that when COVID kind of first started happening, those conversations were being had, and the concern with you guys being, so far removed and obviously not close to the rest of the states, definitely made it difficult. So that's a very interesting story. So Keoki, you have actually touched on this a little bit, but so you talked about marketing your grass fed to the Safeways in Hawaii directly. And then you have kind of talked about the Country Natural Beef program. So are those your main two sources of how you guys market your product, your cattle? And then how has how you market increased your opportunity?
Yeah, so those are the main sources, and about 2/3 of our cattle go into the C&B program, and then about 1/3 of them stay here. We'd like to leave more here if we could, but it's a real delicate balance, because the more cattle we try to finish here, then we have to, we only have so much grass, and we don't always know when we're going to get it. And so, it's balancing the cow herd and that production side of it versus the market animals that we would market locally. So finding that balance is always a little tricky, and you're really at the mercy of Mother Nature, because we don't have any haystacks, we don't have any other supplements we can go to. So that being said, over the years, I think the program has evolved, and in terms of our relationship with IMI and the attributes that they offer, we've kind of evolved together. It started out, our main concern was age and source verification. That was like 17, 18 years ago, when we thought mandatory ID was right around the corner. I was really nervous because I was going to be responsible for that, and I figured I better start practicing now and try to figure out how we're going to do that. And so, not being very tech savvy and trying to figure out how to ID all these animals and create the records was a real challenge operationally. But the easiest part of it was, once we got started with IMI, that part of it went pretty seamless. And so then I think the next big step was when Country Natural Beef decided they were going to add the gap attribute. And they talked about it for probably a year, and then they started trying to get ranchers, and that gave me a lot of heartburn. I wasn't comfortable with the group that was the gap group. I didn't think their standards really applied to large scale ranching, and there was a trust issue from my part. But C&B felt pretty comfortable with it. They wanted to move ahead, and they kind of drug me along with them. And the only sense of comfort I had is because of the trust that we developed with IMI, knowing that they were actual producers that were going to be doing the audit. Audits always make you a little nervous, and especially with ranches, that are large, and you don't always have a lot of control over things. Having people come over and looking at your cattle, and they actually started in one of the worst times. We were in a pretty big drought. So, things are never as good as you'd like them to be. And the only comfort we really had is that we had a long-term relationship with the people at IMI, and knowing that they were producers, they understood the situation. That doesn't mean they were easy on us. They still gave us a full qualified audit with areas that we needed to improve in, which to me validates the process even more. But there was this trust that I think allowed us to take some of those first steps, which can be kind of scary.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, I'm glad to hear that, having that foundation built with IMI really gave you some security in moving forward with something that you were a little unsure about. So that's good to hear on our part. And knowing that we have this partnership with you, IMI, and your ranch operation, and that kind of relationship was working together, through that whole process. So awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Well, Keoki, I'm going to transition, and I'd like to talk a little bit about what verification programs you guys participate in, and how long have you been doing verification?
Right. So obviously the agent source was one of the first ones, and I believe it's been 17, 18 years. And then the GAP program, we started with that, and that's probably been 15 years. We started our grass-fed verification program, the NHTC. Basically, what was nice about IMI is that it was kind of a one-stop shop, and we're natural anyway, so that was an easy one. We just added them in. We don't necessarily use all of them, but we qualify for them, and we feel it does add value. The latest program, we started in, we wanted to start a stewardship program for ourselves and formalize that and have some more structure. So the beef care program, I think, was a real natural evolution for us as well too. And the idea that somebody could help us tell that story and help us not only tell our story, but the story for other ranchers, I think was really appealing in terms of trying to make sure our industry is getting the credit that they deserve.
For sure. Well, it's kind of a nice thing to be able to have, kind of all the programs in your toolbox. Because you are a larger operation, you can kind of meet different needs based on, the different programs and how they're going to work for the end user. So that's such a neat thing. And I think it's so awesome that you guys decided to do the beef care program, because you guys have such an amazing story to tell and such a unique story to tell, not only for yourselves, but like you said, for other ranchers that are kind of in the same position as you. So that's an awesome thing too. Kind of continuing on with verification programs, what do you feel has been the greatest benefit for participating in programs? And then on the flip side, what have you felt is the most difficult part?
Yeah, well, definitely the premiums we receive from being in the GAP program and even on agent source for some of our cattle that we sell to another broker, even though they're small amounts, more and more brokers are wanting them to be agent source verified at the minimum. And anything else you can add to that, adds some value to the animal. I guess, the difficult part of the verification is, the audit can be intimidating, and the amount of record keeping that's required. But for an operation our size, we have to have it anyway. So it's helped us actually be better record keepers and more prudent in our reporting, and so it's actually helped us, I think, become better operators. I guess some of the challenges are, the not so much the verification process, but the programs themselves. And GAP is an example. They have some requirements in there that just don't really apply. And so, for instance, if you have wild dogs coming after your calves, live traps don't work very well. And so, we just trying to find ways to work within the program itself and still explain to your cowboys too that, there's value in this program. And so we got to, comply by the rules that they've set. And we can't always solve everything the cowboy way. Yeah.
For sure. I'm sure that those are hard conversations at times, especially with people who help make the ranch move forward. So I want to kind of elaborate a little bit more on your guys' beef care. So can you kind of talk me through the process and the requirements and how you felt during that entire process? So from start to finish, what were your feelings kind of on it?
On the beef care side, we were just really excited about it. We, saw some of the clips that they had put together. Um, I think it tells a really compelling story about all ranches and really about, you know, how ranching, just hits so many different notes in terms of the stewardship and the animal care and husbandry and the stockmanship and all of those things that are really important and actually, I mean, we do them not only because they have value, but because it has those intrinsic values that kind of make us, want to do the job we do. And so I think what was really nice about it is because we had been in IMI for a while and we had basically enrolled in these various programs, it was a pretty seamless transition. And when we got to the end, I didn't even realize we had completed the whole process. So I guess it was pretty painless. It's kind of like when you went to the dentist's office and you didn't even know he was done, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, so it went really well. There's still some things we need to work on, but I think that's what beef care helps you do, is realize that there's always some work to do to help improve, and it's easy to get just stuck on the day-to-day stuff, and so I think in terms of stewardship, this helps us keep our eye on the long-term goals.
that's awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, being sustainable, obviously sustainability is a huge buzzword right now. But, yeah, you're not only trying to create a sustainable, environment, but you're also trying to, have a sustainable business. I mean,
Right.
that's something that I think that it can be a misconception at times. And hopefully helping tell these stories is that if you as a rancher and your team don't do a good job and take care of not only the cattle but the environment and the people and that work for you and the community around you, then you can't be a viable business. And so I think that that's a really neat story to be able to tell, and I think you guys, wanting to go ahead and start something like this, I think it just fits in perfectly with what you guys are already doing. So
Yeah,
kind
I
of,
think one of the unique features about Parker Ranch that I think dovetails in with the beef care program is that we actually are the for-profit side for a trust, for the Parker Ranch Foundation Trust. And the beneficiaries of the trust are two schools, a hospital, and a community foundation right here in the area of Waimea. And so, being able to have another opportunity to tell our story in terms of our sustainability and using beef care to help do that, I think it just amplifies what that mission is as far as our trust. Yeah, we're the for-profit side of it, so we are definitely in it as a business. But the beneficiaries, when you talk about education and healthcare, and then just the foundation, it's pretty exciting to be able to contribute at those levels as well, and then to have beef care tell that story for us.
oh, for sure. For sure. I can only imagine. So we've kind of talked about it a little bit in this conversation, but care is intended to help tell your story to the consumer. So what would be something that's most important, I guess, or just something that you feel is important that you want consumers to know about, not only the Parker Ranch operation, but maybe you and the people that work for the operation?
Well, definitely, the people that work for the ranch, they have a real deep commitment, some of them multi-generational. And so, I just have a small history with it. And compared to them, their families are involved in it. A lot of them have grandfathers that work for it. They have a passion to come and work for the ranch. And so for us to be able to keep that alive, it's a, you know, it's a bit of a weight of a responsibility. You know, part of our mission is to preserve this culture here and and promote it. And so we do so, you know, we do it to the best of our ability. But it's the people that really do make the ranch. You know, the land and the livestock draws them here, but they're the ones that keep it all together. So we're just fortunate to have, you know, we have very low turnover here. It's pretty much within the community, and you know, they're the ones that really are Parker Ranch.
Truly families feeding families,
Yes.
which I think is an important story to tell. You know, I think
Yep.
sometimes people look at large operations like Parker and at times can have kind of a negative outlook on it, but they also have to remember that the people that help make this ranch work all have families. And you know, I think that's such a neat thing that you have you know, people who are working there, that they're, you know, parents and grandparents have worked for the organization as well. I mean, not very many people can say that, and so I think that that's a really neat story to tell. That's so awesome.
You know, that's a really good point because, you know, the big ranches, you know, they have their challenges, and yeah, they create consequences when they do things because they're so big, and some of them can be positive and some of them can be negative. But sometimes we forget that those big ranches are made up of people, and you know, a lot of them run a few cows on their own. They're just, I mean, you know, they're the same as every other small rancher, and they just happen to work for a big ranch, and you know, we couldn't do it without them. And sometimes, you know, they get, I don't know if you call it collateral damage or what, but when the big ranch, when people start throwing stones at the big ranch, they forget that it's made up of people just like those little ranches, or I
Yeah.
hate little ranches, but just like other ranches, they're all people. They're all concerned about their livestock and about how they manage their pastures and how they take care of their stock. And you know, we're really all the same. I hope that message, you know, continues throughout, that it's not us versus them or big versus small, you know.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, Keoki, I have one more question. And really, what if you were to give a producer that's looking to do verification for the first time any advice, what would you tell them?
Well, you know, we're hoping that we can get some more producers signed up for the programs, and you know, we would tell them, you know, let's come on over. Dee Dee, who works with us in the office, and Whitney are basically, they're the ones that keep track of all the records, and they could basically show them and walk them through the whole process of what they're going to need and how they can help them create those records and start that process. And so I would just say, reach out to somebody that's been doing it, because people will want to share what they've learned and how that process can be even easier. And then, you know, schedule, your audit. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I think that's it's a great thing to say, is if a producer is interested, you know, try to reach out to somebody who's been doing it, get to
Yeah.
know them and the struggles and the pros and the cons, essentially, because you're going to be as transparent as you can with
Yep.
them, and knowing that they're very similar to you. So awesome. Well, Keoki, those are all my questions. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add or end on before we say our goodbyes?
No, just that, you know, we appreciate you guys helping us get organized and helping us get our message out. And, you know, it really does add credibility to everything that we do. And, you know, we're glad to be a part of it. So thank you. Thank you.
Yes, well, yeah, no problem. Well, thank you for all your hard work. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to chat with us. You know, if you guys are interested in any of the programs that Keoki and I spoke about, or wanting to learn more, you can give us a shout at 895-3002. That's our office number. Or you can go online to imiglobal.com, and there is so much information on there, between talking about the programs that we do to learning more about IMI Global, and finding webinars like this. Please be sure to check that out. And thank you again, Keoki, and we will talk to you guys again.
Yeah, and to all our friends that are freezing cold, we hope you guys thaw out soon.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.